Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about why Dungeons & Dragons outperforms every single competitor it has at the same time of outperforming the entire industry. So Dungeons & Dragons, since it began, has outsold every single competitor it has ever had. And at the same time, if you group all those competitors together, Dungeons & Dragons still outsells them. There was this really powerful myth that stood for a long time that for a brief moment in 4th edition, Pathfinder outsold Dungeons & Dragons. And even that has been overturned, as we've moved forward. We're like, nah, that wasn't true. And ICV2 does an amazing job with metrics, and they turned in some good metrics that people just misread, right? So why does Dungeons & Dragons... So what I want to talk about today is understanding Dungeons & Dragons as an intermodal container, right? And how it became an intermodal container and why that's so critically important, okay? So this is really fascinating. So why does Dungeons & Dragons crush every tabletop role-playing game that comes to take its crown, and crushes all tabletop role-playing games when you combine them? It still outsells them, right? Like, all combined, it's still outperforming them. Well, first, you have Gary Gygax, right? And what did he do? He said, Dungeons & Dragons is this incredibly unique product that will change how humanity deals with narrative and how humanity deals with identity. That, and no other tabletop role-playing game has ever understood this the way Gary established it. They were all like, well, you're telling a story and you're this other character. But he was really going deep, and you could see that through alignment. Alignment is the part where you're like, oh, wait, Gary was doing something different. And you could really see this today because games are scrambling to take alignment out because it makes people uncomfortable. Alignment makes people uncomfortable because it is the linchpin. It is why Dungeons & Dragons is so dramatically powerful and dramatically different and dramatically important, right? So, but let's get there. Let's get all the way there. Let's talk about the intermodal container. So Gary does his thing, and he propels Dungeons & Dragons forward at a rate that is unprecedented between 1974 and 1986. Between 1986 and 1997 is the intermodal container period of Dungeons & Dragons. What happened is Lorraine Williams comes in, and she creates Dungeons & Dragons as an intermodal container. What is an intermodal container? You've seen thousands of them. An intermodal container is those containers they put on semi trucks. Those containers, they're a box. They're 8 feet wide by 8.5 feet tall by 20 feet long, right? And they're a standard. They're an international standard. And because of that, you can stack them on top of each other. You could put them on a semi truck. You could put them on a train. You could put them on a boat, right? You could crane them, right? And intermodal containers have super boring object, but they've been absolutely critical as far as creating something that is transformatively important for all humanity, right? And that's what Lorraine Williams did with Dungeons & Dragons. She made it an intermodal container. And what's been happening since is every other tabletop role-playing game has created their game as a box, right? And those boxes are not uniform, they're not stackable, and they can't be moved. And these design teams make the box, and then they get in the box, and then they create their game, and then they continue to create their game, and people consume their product, right? But what Lorraine Williams did was she made Dungeons & Dragons, she made the box, but she made it an intermodal container, right? And that's what's truly important. Is she made this intermodal container, and it's stackable, and it is movable. And so the design team is inside, doing all the work of Dungeons & Dragons, working inside the box, but the box is moving, right? And it's being stacked, right? So it's moving forward with the culture where none of these other games are moving forward with the culture. And that's why you see people get so upset with Dungeons & Dragons, is Dungeons & Dragons is actually moving forward with this incredibly important culture, right? is making these moves with culture that is incredibly important, and making it, and that's why people get upset, because they're like, oh my gosh, you put something progressive here, you put something that talks about our culture here, you put something that it's not really about a dungeon or a dragon, it says Dungeons and Dragons, but oh my goodness, this is actually all about our own culture and is a mirror to us, right? And that is truly incredible, right? And the container, not only is it moving where no other tabletop role-playing games are moving, it's moving forward, and it's moving with the culture, and it moves backwards sometimes. It moves, and no other tabletop role-playing games really move with the culture. That it's never happened, right? Pathfinder has gotten close a few times, right? And then here's the last part. It's stackable, right? Oh, let's take Dungeons and Dragons. Let's stack Funko Pops on top of it. Let's stack Funko Pops and Dungeons and Dragons on top of Magic Gathering. Let's take Magic Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, and Funko Pops, and let's stack them on top of Yahtzee. Let's take Dungeons and Dragons and Yahtzee and Funko Pop and Legos and stack them, and Magic Gathering, and stack them with Legos. It is truly astounding, and there has never been anything like it, right? And that's why Dungeons and Dragons does what it does, is it functions and it succeeds as a tabletop role-playing game, exactly like it was, exactly like it's been presented to people, right? But it's doing something fundamentally different. It's moving. Like, the team is inside doing their work within the box, but the box is moving. It's literally on a truck, it's on a train, it's on a boat, and it is moving with the culture. And it is truly astounding. And we're seeing things done with Dungeons & Dragons that simply just are not done with any other tabletop role-playing game experience.